Third party and your special person's ex showed your photo to a psychic. She went crazy when the psychic revealed who you really are. My beloved child, what happened when the third party and your special person's ex placed your photo in front of that psychic was nothing like they expected. They walked in believing they were about to hear something simple, something that would confirm everything they had already convinced themselves was true about you. But the instant the psychic looked at your photograph, her expression changed. She didn't speak immediately. She stared at your eyes in the picture, looked away, and then looked again as though she had noticed something nobody else had noticed before. The silence became impossible to ignore. Your special person's ex finally asked, "What do you see?" And the psychic answered with one sentence that completely changed the atmosphere: "This person is not who you think they are." Don't skip, because that was only the beginning. The third party expected the psychic to reveal some ordinary detail about your connection, but instead she began describing something far deeper. She said your presence had left a mark on your special person that distance could not simply erase. Your name might not always be spoken, your photograph might not always be visible, but somehow your memory kept returning at the moments when your special person was forced to be completely honest with themselves. That revelation immediately made the ex uncomfortable. She had brought your photograph looking for reassurance, yet every word was creating more questions. And then the psychic suddenly asked, "Why did you bring me this photograph if you already know this person still matters?" Nobody answered. Stay till the end, because what she revealed next was the part they were never prepared to hear. The psychic pushed your photograph slightly forward and said there was something unusual about the entire situation. She explained that the real story was not about competition, jealousy, or who appeared closest to your special person right now. The real story was about the one connection your special person had never been able to fully explain. And according to her, that connection pointed straight back toward you. The third party tried changing the subject, but the psychic stopped and looked directly at her. "You came here hoping I would tell you this photograph means nothing," she said, "but you already sensed the opposite before you entered this room." That sentence changed everything. Suddenly, the third party realized the psychic had understood why they were there without being told. But something even bigger was coming. The psychic said your special person had compared other connections to yours more times than anyone around them realized. Not because everything between you had been perfect, but because something about you had reached a part of them that ordinary attention could never reach. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Your special person's ex became visibly unsettled and asked the question she had apparently been holding back from the beginning: then who exactly is this person to them? The psychic looked down at your photograph again. For several long seconds she said absolutely nothing. Then she quietly answered, "The person they tried to move beyond," without understanding why their heart kept looking backward. That was the moment the entire conversation shifted. They had arrived wanting information about you. Instead, they were discovering something about your special person that neither of them had expected. But the biggest revelation had still not been spoken. The psychic explained that your strength was not in chasing anyone, proving yourself, or forcing yourself into somebody's story. It was exactly the opposite. She said the reason your energy remained memorable was because something genuine could not simply be recreated by replacing the person attached to it. Your special person might have tried to become practical. They might have told themselves enough time had passed. They might even have acted as though everything was completely settled. Yet privately, one unanswered question kept returning: what if I misunderstood what that connection actually meant? Stay till the end, because the psychic then revealed why your photograph had affected the room so strongly. She said, "This person represents an unfinished truth." Your special person's ex immediately wanted to know what that truth was, but the psychic would not answer quickly. She looked at both of them and said the truth was connected to something your special person had recently admitted when they believed nobody important would ever hear about it. A sentence about you. A sentence powerful enough to explain why the third party had become curious about your photograph in the first place. And here is what neither of them realized: the psychic believed someone had already heard that sentence. Someone close enough to your special person to know exactly what had changed. Now that person is holding a piece of the story that could completely change how everyone understands your connection. Something huge is waiting for you, because what your special person apparently said about you was not about the past at all. It was about what they secretly wished could happen next. The room changed the moment the psychic revealed that your special person's secret words were about the future, not the past. Your special person's ex leaned forward immediately, while the third party went completely quiet. They had expected your photograph to uncover an old memory, but instead they were hearing that your special person might still imagine something ahead with you. The psychic looked at your photo again and said, "There is one sentence they have been afraid to say directly. Don't skip, because this is where everything became more surprising." She explained that your special person had spent a long time pretending their feelings could simply disappear if they stayed silent long enough. But silence had done the opposite. It had given them more time to realize what they actually missed about you. Not attention. Not familiarity. Not simply the memories. They missed the version of themselves that appeared whenever your connection felt real. Your special person's ex immediately asked, "So what did they say?" The psychic paused. Then she answered, "They wondered whether they had walked away from the one person they were supposed to understand better." That sentence landed differently. The third party suddenly wanted to know why your special person had never admitted this openly. And the psychic's answer was simple: because admitting it would force them to reconsider decisions they had spent months defending. Stay till the end, because the next revelation was the one that completely changed why your photograph had been brought there at all. The psychic then turned toward the third party and asked a question nobody expected: "Who told you to bring this particular photograph?" There was another silence. Apparently, this wasn't a random picture. It was a photograph connected to a moment your special person remembered clearly. That detail mattered because the third party had noticed something strange before visiting the psychic. Whenever your name or something connected to you appeared unexpectedly, your special person's entire mood shifted. They tried to hide it, but the change was noticeable. That was why curiosity had grown. They wanted an explanation. Instead, the psychic was giving them a truth they never wanted to consider. She said your special person had recently started questioning whether the distance between you had been created by circumstances, misunderstandings, pride, or simply terrible timing. Something huge is waiting for you. Because then the psychic revealed the detail that made your special person's ex lose her composure. Your special person had apparently defended you during a private conversation when someone tried to reduce what you meant to them. They could have stayed silent. They could have agreed. Instead, they said something unexpectedly powerful: "You don't know them the way I do." The room became still again. Don't skip, because those words were only half of what had been said. The psychic believed another sentence followed, and that second sentence explained why the third party had suddenly become so determined to understand who you really were. The psychic looked directly at your photograph and said that whatever happened next would depend on truth finally replacing assumptions. Your special person was no longer asking themselves whether you mattered. According to what the psychic sensed from the situation, the question troubling them was much bigger: whether they still had an opportunity to tell you what they should have told you much earlier. Your special person's ex could barely accept what she was hearing, because she had assumed your chapter was completely closed. But the psychic said, "Some chapters look closed only because nobody has been brave enough to turn the page. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you." Then came the revelation that changed the meaning of the entire visit. The third party had not become curious about you because of something you had done. She became curious because of something your special person had done recently. They had returned to something connected with you, a memory, an old conversation, something they had kept when everyone assumed it was forgotten. And when somebody asked why they still had it, your special person apparently answered with words nobody expected: "Because I'm not sure I'm ready to let that person become only a memory." That was why your photograph reached the psychic. That was why the questions started. And now there was one final mystery hanging over everyone in that room. If your special person was finally admitting this privately, what exactly were they preparing to do about it? What happened next was the moment nobody in that room could explain away. The psychic slowly moved your photograph toward the center of the table and said, "The real question is no longer why they remember this person. The real question is why those feelings are becoming stronger now." Your special person's ex immediately looked toward the third party, because suddenly both of them understood that this visit had uncovered far more than they wanted. Don't skip, because the psychic then revealed something surprising. Your special person had recently begun replaying one specific moment involving you, but they were seeing it differently now. Something they once misunderstood suddenly made sense. Words they thought meant one thing now seemed to mean another. And with that realization came a difficult thought: they may have judged your intentions before understanding your heart. Stay till the end, because this was where the entire story turned. The psychic said your special person wasn't simply remembering you, they were reconsidering the decision that created distance between you. And every time they reconsidered it, the same question returned: what if I was wrong? The third party tried to dismiss it as nostalgia, but the psychic immediately replied, "Then why are you here holding their photograph?" Silence. Nobody had an answer. Something huge is waiting for you, because the psychic was about to explain exactly what had made your special person start questioning everything. She said something recently reminded your special person of the way you once understood them without requiring long explanations. It may have been a conversation, a familiar place, or simply one unexpected memory, but it brought back a feeling they had been trying to place somewhere in the past. Instead, they realized it was still present. Don't skip. According to the psychic, your special person had quietly begun asking about you, not necessarily directly, but carefully enough to learn whether your life had changed and whether you had emotionally moved forward. That revelation stunned the ex. "Why would they want to know?" she asked. The psychic looked at her and replied, because people do not search for answers to questions that mean nothing to them. Then came another twist. Someone close to your special person had apparently noticed this change and confronted them about it. They asked why your name kept returning to conversations that had nothing to do with you. Your special person could have denied everything. Instead, they gave an answer nobody expected, because I never got to say what I really meant. Stay till the end. Those words changed the entire meaning of their silence. Maybe they had not stayed away because there was nothing left to say. Maybe they stayed away because what they needed to say felt too important to say carelessly. Then the psychic became unusually quiet. She looked at your photograph one final time and said the biggest surprise was not that your special person still thought about you. It was that they appeared to be reaching a point where thinking was no longer enough. Something huge is waiting for you. She explained that there comes a moment when unanswered feelings become heavier than the fear of speaking, and your special person seemed closer to that moment than anyone around them realized. The third party asked, "Are you saying they want this person back?" But the psychic refused to make it that simple. She said, "I'm saying they want the truth between them to finally be known. Don't skip, because that distinction matters. Your special person may not know how you would respond. They may not know whether the door is still open. But privately, they have started imagining what they would say if they had one completely honest conversation with you." And the first sentence they imagined was not an excuse. It was an admission: "There is something about us I never understood until you were gone." Your special person's ex stared at your photograph, suddenly realizing why this entire situation had affected her so deeply. She had arrived wanting to discover who you really were. Instead, she discovered who you might still be to your special person. And now one question remained: what was the truth your special person had finally understood about you that they could no longer keep to themselves? The answer came when the psychic noticed one detail everyone else had overlooked from the beginning. She stared at your photograph, then looked directly at your special person's ex and said, "You keep asking who this person really is, but you should be asking why your special person could never describe them like everyone else." The room became completely still. Don't skip, because what came next changed the entire story. The psychic explained that whenever your special person spoke about ordinary connections, their words were simple and predictable. But whenever someone pushed them to explain you, they became careful. They remembered tiny details. Your expressions, the way certain conversations felt. Things you said that they pretended to forget. Even moments that seemed insignificant at the time had somehow remained clear. And recently, one particular memory returned with completely different meaning. Your special person finally realized that something they once interpreted as you pulling away may actually have been you protecting your own heart because you were uncertain where you stood. That realization hit them hard because suddenly they began reviewing everything from your perspective instead of only their own. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the psychic said this was the real reason their feelings had become impossible to ignore. They weren't only missing you anymore. They were finally understanding you. Then the third party asked the question that had been building since the beginning: if they understand all this now, why haven't they said anything? The psychic's answer came immediately. Because understanding the truth and having the courage to face it are two different things. Your special person had apparently rehearsed a conversation with you privately more than once. They imagined how you might respond. They wondered whether you would listen, whether you had changed, and whether they had waited too long. Don't skip, because there was another detail. Someone close to them had recently asked, if this person means so much, why are you still pretending they don't? Your special person stayed silent at first. Then came the sentence that nobody around them expected, because if I admit what they mean to me, I have to admit I may have made the wrong choice. The third party looked stunned. Your special person's ex immediately asked the psychic whether that meant everything happening now was connected to you. But the psychic corrected her, this is not about defeating another person. This is about someone finally becoming honest with themselves. And that made the revelation even stronger. Your special person wasn't being pushed toward you by anyone else. Their own memories, realizations, and unanswered words were bringing your connection back into focus. Stay till the end, because the biggest piece was still missing, the exact truth they believed they had discovered about you. The psychic finally turned your photograph around so both of them could see it clearly. Here is what they understand now, she said. This person never needed to be perfect to become unforgettable. They simply made your special person feel understood in a way they underestimated until that understanding was gone. Something huge is waiting for you. Your special person's ex stopped asking questions. The third party said nothing. Because suddenly the reason behind this entire visit became clear. They had hoped the psychic would uncover something about you that would make your connection seem smaller. Instead, every revelation explained why your presence had remained so significant. But then came one final twist. The psychic said your special person had recently made a private decision. Not a dramatic promise. Not an impulsive move. A simple decision that could change everything. If they received even the smallest genuine opportunity to speak with you again, they would stop pretending nothing remained unsaid. Don't skip. They already knew the first truth they wanted you to hear. I understand now why losing our connection affected me differently. But according to the psychic, that wasn't the sentence that would surprise you most. There was another confession behind it, something connected to a choice your special person made after you became distant. A choice they now see completely differently. And once that truth comes forward, you may finally understand why the third party and the ex became so desperate to discover who you really were. The choice your special person regretted was not what anyone in that room expected. The psychic lowered her voice and said, after the distance began, they made themselves believe moving forward quickly would prove they were unaffected. But something unexpected happened. Every new chapter quietly reminded them of something they had experienced with you. Not because other people lacked value, but because your connection had created its own emotional language, small details, unspoken understanding, and moments that only made sense to the two of you. Don't skip, because the psychic said your special person eventually realized they had been trying to replace a feeling instead of understanding why it mattered. That realization changed everything. They began remembering one conversation where you had apparently given them an opportunity to be completely honest, yet they held back. At the time, they believed another opportunity would eventually come. Now they understood that some moments do not return in exactly the same form. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The third party asked whether your special person regretted losing that moment, and the psychic answered, they regret believing silence would protect them from what they felt. Suddenly, your special person's ex understood something uncomfortable. This story had never remained alive because you were chasing it. It remained alive because your special person had never truly answered the questions they carried after you stepped away. Then came the revelation that made everyone look at your photograph differently. The psychic said someone had recently mentioned you casually in front of your special person, expecting almost no reaction. But instead of changing the subject, your special person asked a question: do you think they ever understood what I was trying to hide? Don't skip. That one question exposed more than a long confession could have. They had apparently been hiding how deeply your absence affected their perspective. They remembered the last things they said to you and wondered whether those words had made you believe you meant less than you actually did. And now that possibility bothered them more than the distance itself. The psychic explained, they are beginning to understand that the person in this photograph may have walked away carrying the wrong version of the story. Your special person's ex immediately asked what the correct version was. The psychic looked directly at her and replied, that leaving them behind was never as easy as they made it appear. Something huge is waiting for you. Because your special person had apparently admitted another truth privately, if they could return to one moment between you, they would not change where you met or how everything began. They would change the moment when honesty mattered most. They would say what they felt before assumptions had the chance to speak for them, but the psychic still had one final detail from the photograph that she had deliberately saved until the end. Stay till the end, because this completely changed the question of who you really are in your special person's story. She said, they once believed this person entered their life to become part of a temporary chapter. Now they wonder whether this person entered their life to show them something about themselves they were not ready to understand. The third party immediately asked what that meant. The psychic explained that your special person had changed after knowing you. Their expectations changed. The way they recognized genuine connection changed. Even the things they wanted from their future became harder to ignore. Don't skip, because then she revealed the sentence your special person had supposedly been unable to admit openly: I thought I would forget them when life moved forward. Instead, moving forward showed me exactly what I had lost. Nobody responded. The third party and the ex had brought your photograph searching for answers about you, but the biggest answer had always been hidden inside your special person. And now another secret was about to surface. Someone close to your special person knows they have been thinking about reaching out. That person recently asked them one simple question: if you finally get the chance to speak, what will you tell them first? Your special person's answer was immediate, and what they said next could completely change everything you thought you knew about why they stayed silent. Nobody expected your special person to answer that question so quickly. There was no long pause, no attempt to hide behind another explanation. According to what the psychic revealed, the first thing they wanted you to know was painfully simple: I should have told them they mattered while I still had the chance to make it obvious. Don't skip, because those words were only the doorway to something much bigger. Your special person had finally recognized that you may have interpreted their silence as indifference when, privately, they were struggling to understand feelings they had never learned how to express clearly. The psychic looked at your photograph and explained that this was why your memory kept returning. It wasn't merely about missing old moments. It was about unfinished honesty. Your special person's ex immediately asked, then why wait this long? The psychic replied, because sometimes people understand the value of a connection only after they can no longer reach for it whenever they want. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. She said your special person had recently imagined seeing you again, and what surprised them most was not what they wanted to say, it was what they feared seeing in your eyes. They wondered whether you had already reached the point where their explanation no longer mattered. That thought changed them. For the first time, they realized they could not assume you would always remain emotionally available while they deck.